So the story I'm going to share with you today isn't being told from the end. It's going to be told from the messy middle. Because in truth, that's more where I am. I think too many people try and present their stories from a place of perfection. Like everything's already sorted out. Everything's all done and it's wrapped up in a neat little bow. But in truth, life isn't really like that. And we're all always somewhere in the messy middle. We're always somewhere trying to figure out different parts of our lives. But the point of this story is that I've been running a trust experiment for the past 9 months. And I've let it lead me where it wanted to lead me. And I've discovered that living in that messy middle, in many ways, feels like you're living in the end state without having reached the end goal. That's how I found myself living basically in paradise without having actually reached the goals that I've set myself. This is the amazing thing that can happen when we just start to learn how to let go a little bit more and to trust what the universe actually is trying to birth through us. So about a year ago now, I was still living in England. I was living in England, I had a comfortable house, I had my freelance motion design job, which is like a type of animation. And this is the way I'd been living for several years. This is what I knew, this is what felt safe. But this calling had been bubbling up for some time to do something different with my life. This calling had been gradually pulling me forward and urging me to step outside of my comfort zone and start to offer to the world all of the things that had already changed my life so much. All of the understandings, all of the practices, all of the methods, the techniques, all of the different ways that I discovered in order to free myself to live a life that felt more fulfilled, where I felt happier, where I naturally aligned with more, good opportunities in my life. So when I was there in England, I started to feel this call that I had to leave. I had to leave the UK. It was my comfort zone. Living in the north of England in my little house with my partner, it was the comfort zone. But I was being called to step out and go out into the world because I knew in order to actually start offering the work I now offer, I had to shift my environment too. This had to be part of it. And so, but things weren't easy. And this is the point. It's like nothing was aligned to make this particularly easy for me. I had to overcome doubts within myself, blocks within myself, in order to actually finally have the courage to take the leap and start to live more nomadically in the world. And I have literally never looked back, not once, with regret in that decision. So earlier last year, so it was about May, June time, the pull was too strong. And me and my partner decided, okay, we're gonna do this. We're gonna leave the UK and we're gonna start to live nomadically. The problem was this, I didn't have enough money to do this easily. And this is obviously a common thing that comes up for people. Okay, how can we live the life of our dreams without the money? At the time, I thought this was like a full stop. I thought there's no way forward. But actually, I just wasn't thinking broadly enough. And all I ended up actually needing to do was just have the courage to go and get out a loan. So I went and got a 20K loan out from whoever would lend it to me. And I thought, okay, if I get this loan out, this is going to support me while I step out into the world nomadically and focus all of my energy, all of my attention on this thing which is calling me forward. Is to work on becoming a really good guide for other people and at the same time to build my YouTube channel, to actually start learning how to speak on camera, something I was terrible at. Before I had no idea how to do it. I never would have been able to speak to you like this when I began this channel. But I was determined to do it, so I set off and I put myself away on my own for 2 months in Bali, where all I did was work on this every day. That is all I did, full focus. And you know, gradually things improved. I got better at speaking, I got better at guiding others, and I started to see some great results from working with people. And all of this was obviously really encouraging. And then towards the end of the year, you know, we ended up going, when I met up with my partner again after Bali, we ended up going for a brief spell in Vietnam. That didn't really work out for us. It didn't feel that aligned to be there. And so finally we were pulled into Thailand just at the end of the rainy season here, which was like at the end of November. And around this time, my funds had started to dwindle. Now, I did miss out that in summer we had the most incredible time in Corfu, an island just off Greece, especially spending time near this conscious festival called Colibri. We had such an amazing summer, and it was just like the beginning of living from this place of freedom, which we hadn't really embodied yet before so fully. We decided, even though everything wasn't in place, we're going to go and live out this life we want to live regardless, no matter what. Even though it feels risky, even though everything isn't aligned, we're going to do it. So, but obviously, you know, it costs money to stay there, so there's that. And I'd basically started to turn down a lot of work with my motion graphics career. I started to turn down a lot of clients because I was just so determined to spend my time doing the thing that I'm dreaming of, doing the thing I'm so called to. And so come the end of the year, and the loan was beginning to dwindle, and I was like, oh, you know, I had no real answer for what was going to come next, for how I was going to be supported in doing this work I knew is so important, and I knew it's what I was being called to do. But around that time, like two clients that I hadn't turned down suddenly started appearing in my inbox regularly. So these happened to be my best paying clients, and also the clients who gave me least hassle, took the least amount of energy from me, so I could still focus all this time, all my efforts into, you know, offering services to other people, guiding other people, and building up this business. And so these clients just seemed to come in out of nowhere. It was like magic. They would just suddenly appear. Whenever I needed money, boom, they would be in my inbox just offering me really good work that I could do in whatever basically time I wanted of the day. Everything was like in my flow, up to me, you know, very relaxed clients. And so what started happening is they just seemed to be there. Whenever I needed them, these clients would suddenly appear in my inbox. Now, when I left the UK, I obviously had no idea that I was definitely going to be supported in this way. Because, you know, when it comes to freelance work, you never really know when people are going to get in touch with you for work. You know, often it's like, it's pretty random, can be pretty sporadic. But it just turned out that I felt so right to be so trusting, because things would just magically start to happen around me as I continued with my quest, as I continued on with this mission to serve. Things would just work out. And we ended up finding this house here in Koh Phangan, this beautiful island off the coast of Thailand. It's definitely got its party scene on it, which we don't really partake in on the other side of the island, but where we are, it's honestly like paradise. There's palm trees and white sandy beaches, the ocean's warm and, you know, usually pretty still. We have loads of cafes and restaurants and like everything you could possibly want. And we didn't know this was here. We didn't know how much we were going to enjoy ourselves here. All of this was kind of just presented to us as we carried on, as we took each step at a time, intuitively guided to make different moves and to do different things. So often it's so easy to get stuck wanting to wait for everything in your external world to line up so perfectly before you take any risks. But it doesn't work that way. Like what I have lived and what I am so absolutely sure about now, especially having, you know, been living this trust experiment so much for the past 9 months, is that you need to start to embody the freedom you desire before your external circumstances necessarily reflect that freedom. The freedom comes from the inside and is then reflected on the outside. We started to live like we were free. We started to live like we had infinite potential. And life has aligned around us to provide everything we need in order to reflect that state of being that we've discovered within ourselves. Often the only thing stopping us from actually discovering this within ourselves is fear that we are out of control. That by letting go of this control, then we're not going to be safe. That things aren't going to work out. And this is one of the biggest lessons we can ever have. How can you learn to trust more that you will be supported if you take the leap with something which is so aligned with good intention within you? If you have this pure intention to better yourself or to serve or to live a life which is more aligned with your excitement, whenever you're aligned with that intention, you can start to trust that the universe is going to support you in that, because you're aligning yourself with the intention of the higher power behind it all. This is what our lives are meant for, is to just learn how to discover how to live more in alignment with the highest intentions within us. But often it takes a bit of courage, especially at the beginning when you don't have it all worked out. It's not always obvious, it's not always clear. But sometimes you just got to take that leap, and that leap of faith just to trust. Because the truth is that we're here to grow, and that we grow most only with movement, because it's movement that creates friction. And it's in this friction that we're discovering where we still hold blocks that are limiting us from the freedom and the potential that is wanting to come through us into our experience. It's through this movement that we discover the things holding us back. Because I can tell you for certain that every time I've stepped along this path to where I am now, I've uncovered different parts. I've uncovered the next step along the way. Everything that I needed to learn next to discover about myself in order to work on or to let go has presented itself as an opportunity. Sometimes it's a difficult opportunity. Sometimes it feels like a challenge, but in that is the lesson you need in order to let go of something you're holding on inside, which is blocking you from this infinite flow that you are part of. Now, I've had such fantastic results with my clients already. I'm so delighted with all the people I've already worked with that it's given me this incredible feeling of fulfillment. Fulfillment that I've never actually felt before in any part of my life. That's how I know I'm in alignment. That's how I know it's a beautiful sign that I'm on the right path. But obviously that's just one part of it. The synchronicities, the happy accidents, the meeting of people, the opportunities. When you switch your perspective to life is happening for you and that you can trust it, suddenly the magic of reality, the magic of your existence starts to reveal itself. And in this, somehow, without having to force it, without having to control it, reality starts to move and shape for you. The external starts to reflect the changes you've made on the inside. I never knew that I could live like this and feel so supported by the universe. I always doubted it for many different reasons. My past, my conditioning, trauma, all of these different things which we hold on to, which become part of like these subconscious blocks that we carry. Gradually, you just learn to notice them and let them go and start to shift into a version of yourself you couldn't have even imagined before. Because underneath all those doubts, all that negative thinking, all this questioning we have of ourselves, is a version of you that is completely free already. It's completely free. And the more we just allow that version of you to emerge, the truth of who you really are, the more that freedom is going to be reflected back to you in your external world. And in this we find true happiness, true purpose, and more meaning than we could ever have imagined before. So I hope you enjoyed this story today, my friends. This was, this is as raw as I can get with you. This is what my life is. This is what my life has been like for the past year. And I hope this serves as some way of encouragement for you to take that leap and to start to trust that the universe has got your back, and to trust that inner guidance which is urging you to actually step into more of your potential. Because that's the real you. That's the real you speaking. The one that knows that you're meant for more. So if you did enjoy this video today, my friends, please do hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And yeah, let me know in the comments how this landed for you. And if you do want to work with me and to break down some of these blocks that you've got to step into a life of greater adventure, greater fulfillment, then please do get in touch. There's a form below where you can work with me, and I look forward to that very much. Until the next one, guys, have a good day.